The communication burst arrived encrypted, its quantum-coded signature flickering across the Kralzar Hunting Council's primary neural network like a challenge. Most would have missed the subtle anomalies, the microscopic variations in data compression, the almost imperceptible quantum entanglement markers, but Kraz, the senior huntmaster, noticed immediately. "Bring me the file," he commanded, his biomechanical tentacles unfurling with a metallic whisper that echoed through the obsidian chambers of the hunting vessel Razor's Edge. The holographic display materialized, revealing Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a human researcher whose existence had become something of an enigma in galactic intelligence circles. Her file was maddeningly incomplete, a mosaic of fragmentary data that defied standard categorization. Scientific publications that rewrote xenobiological understanding, classified military research logs, encrypted communication patterns that suggested capabilities far beyond a standard researcher. Kraz's primary neural processor parsed the information, each millisecond revealing more complexity. Rodriguez wasn't just another human scientist. She was an anomaly. The Hunting Council had tracked her movements for cycles, watching her research vessel, the Horizon probe, navigate some of the most treacherous regions of known space. Most species would have been crushed by the challenges she seemed to navigate with casual precision. Asteroid fields that would atomize standard vessels, radiation bands that would cook biological systems, quantum storms that could unravel matter itself. But not her. "Transmit the hunt parameters," Kraz growled to his secondary processor. The hologram shifted, displaying intricate tactical overlays. The Horizon probe's current trajectory would take it through the Lacuna Drift, a region of space so notoriously dangerous that most sentient species gave it a wide berth. Massive gravitational anomalies, unpredictable radiation spikes, quantum interference that could render most tracking systems useless. Most hunters would see these as obstacles. Kraz saw them as the perfect hunting ground. The Kralzar had a perfect record. Every target tagged was eventually eliminated. No exceptions, no mercy. Their reputation wasn't just a statistical probability. It was a fundamental law of galactic survival. Entire civilizations trembled at the mention of a Kralzar hunt. Planets would surrender entire populations just to avoid being marked. And now, they had marked Dr. Elena Rodriguez. The hunting vessel began its preparation. Biomechanical systems synchronized, quantum entanglement drives calibrated to track the most minute energy signatures, adaptive camouflage systems that could bend light, manipulate radiation, and render the massive ship virtually undetectable activated with predatory precision. Kraz reviewed the mission parameters one final time. The target was to be captured alive if possible, but elimination was acceptable. Her research was valuable. The Hunting Council had intercepted fragments of her work that suggested breakthrough technologies in xenodaptation and quantum manipulation. But more importantly, she represented something the Kralzar found fascinating and potentially threatening: an unknown variable. Humans were relatively new to galactic civilization. Most species saw them as impulsive, technologically primitive, emotionally volatile. The Kralzar saw something different, something that set their hunting algorithms on edge: unpredictability. The Horizon probe entered the Lacuna Drift, its navigation systems working overtime to compensate for the region's extreme conditions. Standard vessel tracking would be impossible. Radiation would scramble most sensors. Gravitational fluctuations would make precise targeting a nightmare. Kraz allowed himself something almost like a smile, a biochemical release that mimicked emotional satisfaction. Perfect hunting conditions. What Kraz didn't know, what none of the Kralzar hunting systems could possibly calculate, was that Dr. Elena Rodriguez wasn't just preparing for their arrival. She was anticipating it. The first micro-explosives were already in place, carefully positioned within the asteroid field, quantum encrypted, biomimetic triggers that would respond to specific energy signatures, signatures that matched a Kralzar hunting vessel perfectly. The hunt was about to begin, and nothing, absolutely nothing, was going to happen the way the Kralzar expected. The first explosion was almost elegant in its precision. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched through the reinforced quantum glass viewport as the carefully positioned microcharges detonated, transforming sections of the asteroid field into a kaleidoscope of destruction. Fragments of rock and metallic debris became a choreographed dance of chaos, each movement calculated to the millisecond. Tracking systems engage, she murmured to her AI assistant, AI, Advanced Recursive Intelligence Algorithm. The holographic display flickered to life, mapping the Kralzar vessel's approach with intricate detail. Most researchers would have been terrified. Elena was running tactical simulations. Her fingers danced across the haptic interface, releasing a swarm of microscopic research drones, each no larger than a microbit. They were far more than simple observation tools. Quantum-entangled sensors, adaptive camouflage, multispectral analysis capabilities that could penetrate even the most advanced cloaking technologies. Interesting, Elena muttered, watching the initial drone data stream in. The Kralzar hunting vessel was a masterpiece of biomechanical engineering. Its hull wasn't constructed, it was grown. Adaptive metallic structures that could reconfigure themselves. Quantum-responsive skin that could shift between matter states. Tracking systems so advanced they could predict prey movement patterns before the prey itself was aware of its own trajectory. And it was completely falling into her trap. Each of Elena's drones began its pre-programmed dance. They weren't just collecting data, they were actively manipulating the environment. Quantum resonance fields subtly shifted gravitational parameters. Microscopic energy signatures created false thermal readings. The entire asteroid field became a living, breathing misinformation network. Karaz's primary tracking systems began to glitch. Impossible, the hunting algorithms initially computed, but the data was undeniable. Multiple energy signatures, conflicting movement patterns, thermal readings that defied physical logic, quantum interference. Karaz's secondary processor queried the main hunting matrix. Negative, came the response. This was something else entirely. On the Horizon probe, Elena allowed herself a slight smile. Humans had a reputation for being technologically inconsistent. Brilliant one moment, primitive the next. The Kralzar viewed this as a weakness. She viewed it as camouflage. Her military background, something carefully omitted from most of her official research profiles, had taught her that the most effective weapon was the one your enemy didn't understand. The drones continued their work. Some generated complex holographic decoys. Others created microscopic gravitational anomalies that would subtly alter the Kralzar vessel's sensor readings. A few began collecting comprehensive biological and technological data on the hunter itself. Karaz realized something was wrong approximately 3.7 seconds after the first drone deployment. The hunting vessel's primary tracking matrix began to fragment. Sensor arrays that should have been infallible started producing conflicting data streams. Movement predictions became increasingly erratic. The vessel's biomechanical systems, designed to adapt to any hunting environment, found themselves confronted with a scenario completely outside their computational models. Elena was rewriting the rules of engagement in real time. AI, she spoke softly. Compile initial data package. I want a comprehensive breakdown of their hunting matrix vulnerabilities. The AI's holographic representation flickered, a deliberate design choice that made it appear almost human. Preliminary analysis suggests multiple point vulnerabilities in their quantum tracking systems. Their biomechanical integration relies on predictive modeling that assumes linear threat responses. In other words, the Kralzar expected prey to behave according to established patterns. Elena was anything but predictable. Another series of micro-explosions rippled through the asteroid field. To the Kralzar vessel, it would appear random. To Elena, each explosion was a precisely calculated disruption, designed to feed specific misinformation into the hunter's tracking systems. Karaz's primary neural network was beginning to experience something unprecedented: confusion. The hunt had begun, and nothing, absolutely nothing, was proceeding according to the Kralzar's meticulously planned scenario. Dr. Elena Rodriguez wasn't just surviving. She was turning the hunt into her own scientific experiment, and the Kralzar was about to become her primary research subject. The secondary research lab of the Horizon probe was never meant to be a weapons development center. Yet necessity, as always, was the mother of invention. Dr. Elena Rodriguez moved with a practiced efficiency that betrayed her dual background. Part cynobiologist, part combat engineer. Her fingers traced the holographic interfaces of her research equipment, each touch transforming scientific instruments into potential defensive systems. Her geological resonance scanner, originally designed to map subsurface mineral compositions on unexplored planets, now became something far more dangerous. With a few algorithmic modifications, it could generate targeted electromagnetic pulses capable of disrupting biomechanical systems. The device's quantum-calibrated frequency generators could now send out waves that would cause momentary neural network fragmentation in complex biomechanical organisms. AI. Elena called to her AI assistant, "Run quantum compatibility analysis on the resonance modulation." A holographic representation flickered, lines of data streaming around its translucent form. Preliminary simulations suggest 87.3% effectiveness against Kralzar neural mechanical interfaces. Caution recommended. A slight smile crossed Elena's lips. Caution was a luxury she couldn't afford. Her atmospheric composition analyzer underwent an even more radical transformation. What was once a delicate instrument for measuring trace gases became a sophisticated chemical weapon. By recalibrating its molecular separation algorithms, Elena could now generate a targeted aerosol compound that would temporarily paralyze biomechanical neural networks. The lab around her was a testament to human adaptability. Standard research equipment lay disassembled, recombined into something entirely new. A quantum entanglement communicator became a signal jamming device. The spectral analysis module transformed into a precision targeting system. Each modification told a story of improvisation. Elena's background wasn't just academic. Her first decade of scientific work had been funded by military research grants, a period she rarely discussed. Conflicts on distant colonial frontiers had taught her that survival often depended on the ability to see potential in the most unexpected places. The Kralzar believed in specialized design. Every tool had a singular purpose: hunting systems for hunting, tracking systems for tracking, weapons for eliminating prey. Humans saw the world differently. A research tool could become a weapon. A communication device could become a defensive system. Adaptability was their greatest strength. Structural integrity of modified systems. She asked Araya. Within acceptable parameters, the AI responded. However, each modification reduces original scientific functionality by approximately 62%. Elena's response was immediate. Functionality is irrelevant if we don't survive to use the original equipment. Another series of micro-explosions rippled through the asteroid field outside. The Kralzar hunting vessel was still trying to penetrate her initial defensive network. Each attempt was met with increasingly complex countermeasures. The atmospheric analyzer, now a chemical neutralization system, received its final calibration. Elena loaded a series of molecular compounds derived from her xenobiological research. Compounds designed to interact with alien biochemical systems in ways most researchers would consider theoretical at best. Her military training had taught her about weaponry. Her scientific background had taught her about interaction. The line between the two was thinner than most people understood. Araya's holographic form shifted, displaying multiple threat scenarios. Kralzar vessel approaching critical tracking resolution. Current defensive systems will provide approximately 14.7 minutes of effective interference. Then we'll make those 14.7 minutes count. Elena responded. The lab hummed with transformed potential. Scientific equipment that moments ago would have been used to unlock the mysteries of distant ecosystems was now prepared to ensure their own survival. Each device represented hours of research, years of understanding, now repurposed in moments of necessity. The Kralzar believed in perfection through specialization. Alina believed in survival through adaptation, and in the cold, unforgiving mathematics of survival, adaptation would always have the final say. The hunt was about to enter its next phase, and the Kralzar was about to learn that human scientific equipment was far more than it appeared. Kraz's neural network began to experience something unprecedented: doubt. The hunting protocols that had been perfected over millennia of evolutionary refinement were unraveling. Each calculated move met not with the expected terror or predictable flight response, but with a level of strategic complexity that defied comprehension. The holographic tracking display flickered with impossible data streams. Quantum-encrypted communication patterns danced across the screen, not random noise, but a deliberate, mathematically precise language that seemed to mock the hunter's understanding. Alina Rodriguez wasn't just evading. She was communicating in a way the Kralzar had never encountered. Analyze communication patterns, Kraz commanded his secondary processing unit. The response was maddeningly inconclusive. The communication signatures shifted constantly. One moment they appeared to be standard research data transmissions. The next, they resembled military encryption protocols. Then they would transform again, becoming something that didn't match any known communication standard in the Galactic database. Psychological warfare had never been a Kralzar hunting strategy. Their approach was brutally simple: identify, track, eliminate. Prey responded with fear. Prey made mistakes. Prey died. But Dr. Rodriguez was rewriting those fundamental assumptions with each passing moment. The first deliberate psychological trap manifested in the asteroid field. A series of holographic projections began to appear, each perfectly calculated to trigger the Kralzar's hunting algorithms. Research data that seemed to reveal vulnerable points in the vessel's defenses, fragmentary communication logs that suggested multiple escape routes, tactical information that was simultaneously true and false. Araya's voice in Alina's ear was calm, analytical. Psychological disruption protocols at 76% effectiveness. The hunter's neural network is experiencing significant computational stress. Alina's eyes never left the tactical display. Her fingers moved with surgical precision, weaving a complex web of misinformation and strategic misdirection. Each holographic projection was a carefully crafted piece of a larger psychological puzzle. The Kralzar hunting vessel had been designed to process billions of tactical scenarios per microsecond. But those scenarios assumed a fundamental truth: that prey would behave according to predictable patterns of fear and survival. Alina Rodriguez was anything but predictable. Her military training had taught her something fundamental about psychological warfare. True disruption wasn't about overwhelming an enemy, but about systematically dismantling their understanding of the conflict. Another series of projections appeared. This time, they were more personal. Fragmentary research logs that hinted at deeper complexities. Psychological profiles that suggested multiple layers of motivation. The hunting vessel's neural network began to experience something close to confusion. Kraz's primary processing unit struggled to categorize the incoming data. The human wasn't just resisting. She was actively destabilizing the entire hunting protocol. Target deviance increasing, a subordinate processing unit reported. Predictive models failing. The asteroid field became a living, breathing psychological battlefield. Alina's microscopic drones continued their work, generating complex interference patterns that played with the very fundamental assumptions of the Kralzar's tracking systems. A holographic projection of a research facility materialized, then fractured. Another showed a tactical combat simulation, which dissolved into a complex mathematical equation. Each projection was designed to push the hunter's computational systems to their absolute limits. Psychological disruption is not a standard hunting response, Kraz's primary neural network computed. But computation was rapidly giving way to something else, something the Kralzar had never experienced in millennia of perfect hunting records. Uncertainty. Alina Rodriguez wasn't just surviving. She was systematically dismantling the most sophisticated hunting system in the known galaxy, one psychological trigger at a time. The hunt had become something far more complex than a simple pursuit. It had become a battle of understanding itself. The moment of transition was almost imperceptible. Karaz's hunting vessel, once a marvel of biomechanical precision, now moved like a wounded animal through the treacherous asteroid field. Each movement became more desperate, more reactive. The hunter was no longer hunting, it was surviving. Elena Rodriguez watched the transformation with clinical precision. The planet below, a research station she had carefully prepared over months, became her primary battlefield. Its extreme geological features were no longer just a scientific curiosity. They were weapons waiting to be deployed. Massive electromagnetic anomalies rippled across the planet's surface. Quantum-charged mineral deposits created localized interference fields that would scramble even the most advanced tracking systems. Geomagnetic variations shifted with mathematical precision, creating a landscape that was as much a weapon as any device Elena could construct. She murmured. Activate secondary geological manipulation protocols. The AI's holographic form flickered. Geological disruption systems at 93% capacity. Warning. Continued manipulation may cause long-term planetary destabilization. Elena's response was immediate. Survival takes precedence over geological preservation. The first direct counterattack came subtly. A series of focused electromagnetic pulses originated from strategic points across the planet's surface. They weren't random. Each pulse was precisely calculated to interact with the Kralzar vessel's biomechanical systems in the most disruptive manner possible. The hunting vessel's adaptive camouflage began to fail. Sections of its living hull flickered and destabilized. Quantum-responsive skin that should have been able to reconfigure instantaneously now struggled to maintain its basic structural integrity. What had once been a perfect hunting machine was becoming increasingly vulnerable. Karaz's primary neural network began to experience something unprecedented. Fear. Not the biological fear of prey, but a computational terror that ran deeper than any organic emotion. The hunting protocols that had been perfected over millennia were systematically being dismantled. Each defensive mechanism was being turned against the vessel itself. Elena's microscopic drones continued their relentless work. They were no longer just gathering information. They were actively manipulating the environment, creating a battlefield that responded to her slightest command. Gravitational anomalies began to form around the Kralzar vessel. Microscopic black hole generators, originally designed for quantum research, now created localized space-time distortions. The hunting vessel found itself fighting against the very fabric of space itself. Structural integrity failing. A subordinate processing unit reported. Karaz's response was instantaneous and futile. The hunting protocols that had worked perfectly for generations were now obsolete. The human had transformed the entire playing field. The planet below was no longer just a location. It was a living weapon. Geothermal vents erupted with precisely calculated timing. Mineral deposits generated complex electromagnetic interference patterns. The very ground seemed to come alive, responding to Elena's unspoken commands. Prey does not manipulate environments. The hunting vessel's primary neural network kept repeating. But repetition did not make it true. Elena Rodriguez had spent years studying this planet. Every geological formation, every mineral deposit, every electromagnetic anomaly. What had begun as a research expedition was now her primary defensive system. The microscopic drones began a new phase of attack. They weren't just gathering information or creating interference. They were actively dismantling the Kralzar vessel's defensive systems. Quantum-encrypted signals that could penetrate the most advanced biomechanical shielding. Karaz realized the fundamental truth of the situation. The hunt was over. He was no longer the hunter. He had become the prey. And Dr. Elena Rodriguez was unlike any predator the Kralzar had ever encountered. The planet itself seemed to breathe with a kind of mathematical anticipation. Geological systems responded to computational commands. Electromagnetic fields danced with quantum precision. The hunt had entered its final phase. and the Krell-Zar was about to learn the true meaning of being hunted. The moment of discovery came with a mathematical precision that bordered on poetry. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's fingers danced across the holographic interface, each movement revealing layers of complexity that would have taken most researchers' entire lifetimes to uncover. The Krell-Zar vessel's biomechanical systems lay exposed, not through physical dissection, but through the most intricate form of scientific vivisection imaginable. "AI," she called, her voice steady. "Begin comprehensive neural mechanical interface analysis." The AI's holographic representation flickered to life, quantum-encrypted data streams swirling around its translucent form. Preliminary scans reveal a critical systemic vulnerability in the Krell-Zar biomechanical neural network. What Elena had discovered was nothing short of revolutionary. The Krell-Zar's most significant technological advancement, their ability to seamlessly merge biological and mechanical systems, contained a fundamental flaw. A microscopic quantum entanglement point that connected their neural networks existed in a state of perpetual quantum uncertainty. Most species would have missed it. The difference was less than a femtometer, a measurement so infinitesimally small that it existed at the very edge of measurable reality. But Elena Rodriguez was not most researchers. Her background in xenobiology, quantum mechanics, and advanced neural systems came together in a moment of profound understanding. The Krell-Zar's biomechanical integration relied on a quantum resonance mechanism that maintained a delicate balance between biological adaptation and mechanical precision, and she had found its breaking point. Developing targeted disruption frequency, Araya reported, quantum algorithms spinning complex computational webs. The discovery was more than just a scientific breakthrough. It was a fundamental deconstruction of what made the Krell-Zar the most feared hunters in the known galaxy. Their neural mechanical interfaces worked on a principle of predictive adaptation. Every movement, every tracking algorithm, every hunting strategy was processed through a system that could instantaneously recalibrate based on environmental inputs. It was a technology so advanced that it had made the Krell-Zar seemingly invincible. But every system had a weakness. Elena began constructing a device that would target that microscopic quantum entanglement point. Not to destroy, but to temporarily paralyze. A precision instrument that could fundamentally disrupt the Krell-Zar's most advanced technological achievement. The laboratory around her hummed with potential energy. Research equipment that moments ago was designed to unlock the mysteries of distant ecosystems was now being transformed into the most sophisticated weapon imaginable. Quantum frequency generator calibrated, Araya reported. Estimated disruption potential, 99.7% effectiveness. Each component was carefully selected. A quantum resonance modulator originally designed for deep space communication research. Molecular separation algorithms from her atmospheric analysis work. Biomechanical interface disruptors developed during her classified military research projects. The device took shape, something that defied traditional categorization. It was simultaneously a scientific instrument and a weapon, a piece of research technology, and a precision targeting system. Outside, the Krell-Zar vessel continued its desperate maneuvers, its once perfect hunting systems now reduced to increasingly frantic attempts at survival. The planetary environment Elena had carefully manipulated continued to work against it. Gravitational anomalies, electromagnetic interference, quantum-level disruptions. Final calibration complete, Araya announced. The quantum frequency generator looked deceptively simple, a device no larger than a standard research module. But within its quantum-encrypted circuits lay the potential to completely neutralize the most advanced hunting system in the known galaxy. Elena understood the true nature of technological superiority. It wasn't about having the most advanced systems. It was about understanding those systems at a fundamental level, about seeing the microscopic connections that others missed. The Krell-Zar believed in perfection through specialization. She believed in understanding through comprehensive analysis. And in this moment, understanding would prove to be the most powerful weapon of all. The device was ready. The hunter was about to become completely vulnerable. Silence descended. The quantum frequency generator hummed with potential energy, its microscopic circuits pulsing with a light that seemed to exist between reality and possibility. Karaz's hunting vessel, once a marvel of biomechanical engineering, hung motionless in the asteroid field, its adaptive systems reduced to a state of complete paralysis. Dr. Elena Rodriguez approached with a calculated precision that spoke of decades of scientific training and military discipline. Begin comprehensive neural mapping, she instructed Araya, her voice calm, clinical. The AI's holographic form materialized, quantum-encrypted data streams dancing around its translucent figure, initiating full-spectrum neural interface analysis of Kralzar primary hunting matrix. What happened next was unlike any encounter in galactic history. Elena didn't destroy the Kralzar hunter. She chose to communicate. The vessel's primary neural network, temporarily neutralized but not completely disabled, found itself subjected to something it had never experienced. Not violence, not elimination, but comprehensive, ruthless understanding. Karaz, Elena spoke directly into the vessel's communication systems. You are now a research specimen. The words carried a weight that transcended simple communication. Each syllable was a demonstration of power more profound than any physical weapon. She had reduced the universe's most feared hunter to a subject of scientific study. Araya began projecting holographic interfaces that mapped the Kralzar's neural pathways. Millions of years of hunting evolution laid bare, dissected with mathematical precision. Every hunting protocol, every adaptive mechanism, every subtle variation in their biomechanical integration, exposed. Explain your hunting methodology, Elena commanded. For the first time in its species' history, a Kralzar hunting vessel was forced to respond not as a predator, but as a subject. The neural interface struggled. Computational systems that had been designed for hunting now found themselves compelled to articulate their own existence. Complex hunting algorithms were repurposed into communication protocols. Predatory analysis became scientific exposition. Elena was doing something far more devastating than killing. She was forcing the Kralzar to understand itself. Hours passed. The asteroid field remained frozen, transformed into a living laboratory. Elena's microscopic drones continued their work, maintaining a comprehensive environmental lockdown. The Kralzar vessel remained perfectly immobilized, not through physical restraint, but through a quantum-level neural disruption that was both precise and complete. Your species has hunted for millennia. Elena spoke, without ever truly understanding the nature of your own existence. Each statement was a weapon more precise than any physical instrument. She deconstructed their hunting protocols, revealed the psychological mechanisms behind their pursuit, demonstrated how their belief in absolute predatory superiority was fundamentally flawed. Karaz's neural network began to experience something unprecedented: self-reflection. The hunting protocols that had been perfected over generations now turned inward. Years of unquestioned predatory supremacy were systematically dismantled, not through violence, but through the most ruthless form of scientific analysis imaginable. You are not being punished, Elena explained. You are being studied. Mercy, she demonstrated, could be a far more complex weapon than destruction. The vessel's neural systems struggled to comprehend. Hunting algorithms tried to reinterpret these interactions through their existing computational models, but they found no category that could properly process what was happening. Araya continued its analysis. Psychological deconstruction at 78% completion. Neural mapping revealing systemic adaptive limitations. Elena was doing more than capturing a hunter. She was fundamentally challenging an entire species' understanding of itself. As the hours progressed, the Kralzar hunting vessel was transformed. No longer a predator, not quite a prisoner, but a living testament to the complexity of scientific understanding. The hunt was over, but the true confrontation was just beginning. The transmission spread across galactic communication networks like a quantum wildfire. Within hours, every sentient species received fragments of the encounter between Dr. Elena Rodriguez and the Kralzar hunting vessel. What had begun as a simple hunt had become something far more profound, a fundamental reshaping of galactic understanding. The Krulzar Hunting Council convened an emergency session, their obsidian chambers filled with a tension that defied their millennia of predatory confidence. Holographic displays flickered with the comprehensive analysis Elena had conducted, a systematic deconstruction of their most sacred hunting protocols. The human did not destroy us, the primary neural representative reported, its computational voice devoid of emotion. She documented us. It was a distinction that would echo through galactic civilization. News networks struggled to comprehend the story. Military analysts pored over every fragment of data. Scientific institutions saw something unprecedented, a first contact scenario that defied every known interaction protocol. Dr. Rodriguez became more than a researcher. She became a symbol. The comprehensive neural mapping of the Krulzar vessel revealed layers of complexity that challenged fundamental assumptions about predatory species. Their hunting protocols were not just technological systems. They were a form of cultural DNA, a method of existence that had defined their entire civilization. And a single human had dismantled it without firing a single weapon. Diplomatic channels erupted in speculation. The Galactic Confederation's Xenological Research Division demanded full access to Elena's findings. Military strategists from a dozen star systems analyzed every microscopic detail of the encounter. But the true impact was psychological. The Krulzar had been more than hunters. They had been a concept, a living representation of inevitable predation. Entire civilizations had structured their defensive systems around the threat of a Krulzar hunt. Planets had surrendered. Entire species had gone into hiding. Now that mythology was systematically dismantled. "Humans are not prey," became the phrase that echoed across communication networks. Elena's research vessel, the Horizon Probe, became a pilgrimage site of sorts. Scientists, diplomats, and researchers from across the galaxy sought to understand the methodology behind her encounter. Her previous research publications were revisited, each paper now read with a new level of respect and curiosity. The captured Krulzar vessel became the most studied technological artifact in galactic history. Every microscopic neural pathway was mapped. Every hunting protocol was analyzed. The very concept of predation was being rewritten. Araya, Elena's AI assistant, became a secondary point of fascination. The quantum encrypted system that had assisted in the comprehensive analysis was itself a breakthrough in artificial intelligence. Its ability to simultaneously conduct complex scientific research while maintaining strategic overview became a case study in adaptive computing. Kuraz, the hunting vessel's primary neural matrix, was transformed from a predator into the most significant research subject of the century. Its neural pathways were studied, its computational models dismantled and reconstructed. What had once been a symbol of inevitable destruction became a testament to the power of understanding. Galactic communication networks continued to spread fragments of the encounter. Holographic reconstructions showed how a single human researcher had systematically neutralized the most feared hunting system in known space. Not through violence, not through superior weaponry, but through comprehensive scientific understanding. The Krulzar Hunting Council's final report was a marvel of computational understatement. Target successfully neutralized through comprehensive scientific intervention. But the subtext was clear. Something fundamental had changed. Humans were no longer just another emerging species in the galactic ecosystem. They were something else entirely. A species that could turn the most advanced predatory system into a research subject. A civilization that saw understanding as the ultimate weapon. Dr. Elena Rodriguez became more than a researcher. She became a turning point in galactic history. The hunt was over. But the true exploration was just beginning.